Good morning, everyone. It's Chris Onorato. It's Ashley Miller, live on News Channel 13's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Onorato Company, a little Friday morning reaction with the two of us to the first round of the NFL draft. I got duped into this thinking we were going to talk about the Devils' 4-0 win over the Rangers, but we're talking football.
We were never going to talk about the Devils, but you had to get that. You had to get that in there. I like it.
I did. Look, okay, round one is done, and it was anything but predictable, boring.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff happened in Thursday night's first round that I don't really remember being stunned by the NFL draft previously in the first round. It all felt kind of very predictable. Maybe there's something at the back end of the first round where a team slid in to grab a quarter, but we jokingly on the show yesterday, and again, we do this show live streamed every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. where we get much more in depth than we're about to do here, just reacting to the draft. But we asked how many quarterbacks will be drafted in the first round. And I said 5. And guess what? After the first 4 picks, I was feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah,
because
you sure were.
1, 2, and 4 were all quarterbacks, and I felt, well, Will Levis will certainly get drafted. And then I thought Hendon Hooker probably by the end of the first round too. And I was, as usual, way off.
You woke up this morning and said, "Where did Will Levis go?" And I said, "He didn't." And you were like, "What?" So I sort of made it through most of the first round. I dozed in and out, but I didn't come to bed until after it was over. So I had known the results of everything. Chris went up to bed a little earlier and was shocked when he found out Will Levis does not have a team yet.
Unbelievable. Okay, we'll get to maybe if he's the most surprising name on the board or what the biggest shock was of the actual first round. But let's talk about these 3 quarterbacks who were selected. Bryce Young from Alabama goes to the Panthers. C.J. Stroud from Ohio State goes to the Houston Texans. Mild surprise there. And Anthony Richardson from Florida goes to Indianapolis. Who's in the best spot?
This is a tough one for me. For now, I'm going to say Bryce Young because I think in the current state, it feels like the most stable organization.
Oh, you love yourself some Colts.
I do, but it was a disaster last year. I picked them to be like my dark horse, and it was a total nightmare because Matt Ryan was terrible, and it was just a kind of a circus. But yeah, for me, it's Carolina because they made moves to go out and get the number 1 pick. They gave away a lot for it. I understand that, but they spotted their guy who they think is the best quarterback in the draft, who a lot of people think is the best quarterback in the draft. Went out early, made sure they were cemented in a place to do that, went out and got him. And now it feels like they're headed in the right direction after kind of what was a little bit of a nightmare the last 5 seasons there. Stroud, for me, it's interesting because of all the talk about him and that test, the Wonderlic test or the equivalent of it not being so great. And he was falling down mock draft boards, and all of a sudden he goes number 2. The reason I'm like a little bit hesitant to not say Stroud is because I think that is an organization headed in the right direction. I just don't know if he's the guy. So I think DeMeco Ryans is the guy. They traded up to take the number 3 pick, and they picked Will Anderson. So they are putting together some really good pieces. I think he's in a good spot. I'm just not sure he's the answer.
I like DeMeco Ryans. I love what they did to be aggressive to get Will Anderson at 3, like you just said. I don't know that I believe in the GM.
Yeah.
I like the head coach. I don't know that Caserio is really the guy. Some of the decisions, Ash, that have been made in his time, very questionable. So I don't know that I think Houston is going to be the best destination for any of these quarterbacks. I'm with you on that. I really like Frank Reich, and I think he will be good for quarterback development. And I think Bryce Young puts himself in the best spot. No matter if he was in Carolina, Houston, or Indianapolis, I might say it's wherever Bryce Young is. Because I just think he is – people talk about his size. Okay, fine. And if he
intellectually
takes too many hits like a Tua, maybe that is a big issue. But he has played in the biggest games, in the biggest moments, and led some incredible comebacks. I like Bryce Young almost wherever he is. All right, what do we think about what the Jets, Giants, and Bills did in the first round here. Which of these picks first of all, the kid from Ichabod Crane stole the show last night.
That was awesome. The kid from Ghent, New York. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Awesome.
I'm using the school. Kyle Stickles, Make-A-Wish kid, goes out there for the 15th pick and announces the Will McDonald selection.
Fired up.
He was not shy. That was awesome. So the Jets go with an outside linebacker from Iowa State. The Giants go with a cornerback from Maryland, and the Bills take the only tight end of the first round from Utah, Dalton Kincaid. Which one of these picks do you like best?
I think because of the talk about the talent of the tight end draft this year, and just everyone was talking about Dalton Kincaid being one of the best players altogether. And I think that the Bills got who was the best player on their board at the time that they picked, which is pretty good considering they picked at number 25.
Yeah.
I like that for them. I do think, though, that the Giants filled an area of need. Obviously, like, the Bills have Dawson Knox. They're two different tight ends, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. But I think the Giants did the best job of filling the area that they needed. I don't really understand the Jets pick. That's not an area of need for them. They needed a lineman, and I get that the 4 linemen they wanted were probably off the board.
Yeah.
But you went and got Jermaine Johnson last year, and you have a slew of other guys at that position who will essentially be an edge rusher of sorts. I know he's a linebacker, but he'll turn into an edge rusher. So for me, that was like a little bit of a stretch and kind of a question mark. So for me, it's the Giants in terms of area of need, but I like the player in Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I like what the Bills did too, because I think it was clear Dalton Kincaid's the best tight end in this draft, and the Bills got him in the mid-20s. The Giants needed a cornerback. They only had 6 interceptions as a team last year, so they filled a real need. Go ahead.
With the question, and this is kind of a mind-blowing stat to me, this kid only had 2 interceptions in his college career.
But go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, you want more picks. This might not be the guy to do it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, look, maybe the interception. Look, if you are tied towards the top of the pass breakup category, that works for me too. Sure. And if you are a stud defensive back, quarterbacks just aren't throwing to your side of the field a lot of times. So you're not getting the opportunities to create turnovers. We saw that with Deion Sanders his entire career. Darrelle Reeves, they wouldn't throw his way. So the interceptions looked low, but actually, if you looked at the number of targets in his direction, that was incredibly low. So you'd have to look at that for Banks too. The thought on McDonald here, my opinion, at least now in today's NFL, you can never have too many pass rushers. So even if you said to me, hey, we used a first-round pick last year on a pass rusher. We have Carl Lawson. What do we take Will McDonald? Yes. Yeah,
but if you can't protect your $52 million quarterback, well, then guess what?
I hear you. But I think you made the point earlier without maybe overtly making the point. This was the best available player for the New York Jets, and they said we can never have too many of these guys. Let's do it. And so if the O tackles are off the board, what you really wanted, then they've got a second round pick. They'll find some O line help, I'm sure. All right. Also on day one, biggest shock.
I mean, it has to be Levis not going, but
probably.
That to me, it happens every year. Like for me, somebody falls. Even Jalen Carter falling as far as he did, and the Eagles going to get him. Listen, the Eagles have created themselves Georgia Bulldogs 2.0. They've literally drafted 5 Georgia players in the last 2 years. So for me, it's Levis falling out, but somebody's going to get a really good quarterback with, and maybe not. Ryan Leaf made this point today on television. Maybe this is good for Will Levis because, number one, the adversity of whatever gives you a chip on your shoulder. But first-round picks come with expectations. Now he's not going to be a first-round pick. Maybe he'll be a second-round pick or a third-round pick, whatever it is. You don't have the expectations of going top 5 in the NFL. So maybe this is good for him, but somebody's going to get a really good quarterback, 2 really good quarterbacks in the second or third round.
And with a first-round pick, there's that 5th-year rookie contract option not so with a second round pick. So let's say he plays really well in his first 3 years. He's going to get a contract sooner than some of those first round quarterbacks would get, but he's not going to get the money up front that a top 5 pick would get. Levis obviously is a huge shock because there was smoke and mirror talk before the draft, a couple weeks before that, like, well, I don't know, maybe he'll go second overall. And if he doesn't, he'll definitely go to the Colts at 4. And neither of those things happened. So that is a shock. The biggest shock, I guess, instead of what didn't happen, of what happened, I think was Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, yeah, that was
2 running backs in the top 10. Detroit goes Gibbs and Jamal Williams leaves in free agency, so you need another run. But that one surprised me because I look at Gibbs and I say, is he not very, very similar to what Detroit already has in its backfield? That one was surprising.
Yeah, and I just think at that point, Carter had not been selected, right? I thought there's no way that the Lions don't go get Carter and put him on the same line.
Correct.
So I just thought there's no way you don't take the best overall player, because there are a lot of situations where you have your board and your needs and you want to address those needs. But sometimes there's a guy that's on everyone else's board that even though it doesn't address your needs, he falls to you. I'm just surprised they didn't take someone like that.
Carter went 9 because the Eagles moved up.
Yeah.
Gibbs then went 12 to the Lions.
Okay.
So he was gone.
Okay.
The offensive tackle situation, Wright from Tennessee, Skoronski from Northwestern, Jones from Georgia, all off the board before the Jets made their pick, just to clean up some of the exacts. And Paris Johnson went early. He was a top 6 pick or whatever it was to
Arizona.
What
was Gibbs for the Lions?
12.
Okay.
Yeah. And there were a ton of trades. It made it fun. Again, if you stayed off Twitter and you didn't let that crowd ruin it for you. There were a lot of surprises in the first round, which was fun. And now I think the NFL, and I'll make this one quick point. We'll jump onto the very last topic of the show here. The NFL has created such an atmosphere and awareness around the first round being the standalone round on the Thursday night that I think we lose the perspective on how important rounds 2 and 3 are, really. I mean, you build NFL teams with 2 through 6, those rounds. But, I mean, major impact guys in the second and third rounds. So Friday night is a big, big night in this draft. Big night.
Yeah, you'll actually get to watch it if you'd like.
Ryan's watching. We appreciate that. I will be locked in on Game 6 of Kings Warriors.
Okay, and that's an early one, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. I'm in on that one. I might make it all the way through it. Biggest surprise is still on the board going to second round. So Levis was the answer to the first one. Maybe it's still obviously that makes the
outside
natural
of Levis
answer here. Yeah. Yes, but there are a bunch, aren't there? I mean, everybody told us that Joey Porter Jr. was going to be a first-round pick and that Michael Mayer was going to be a first-round pick. And these guys are still on the board.
Yeah, I always laugh because it's like we talked about comparing this to trying to fill out a perfect bracket. It is impossible. Who could have seen the Texans trading up to 3? Who could have seen Levis falling out of the first round? Nobody knows anything. Even the people who get paid to do this every single day and all they do is watch film and scout guys and know what teams need. Even those guys are not even close to right. So I'm never surprised, but this is what makes this so much fun. And there are still a lot of good players left. Tight end was clearly not a position of real need. And you had a guy like Dalton Kincaid. So a guy like Michael Mayer falls. That tends to happen, but somebody's going to get a really good tight end in Michael Mayer.
Yeah. And, the top of the second round becomes interesting because when you have some of those expected first rounders fall out, teams get eager to maybe get towards the top of the second round to snag a guy. So we could see early activity tonight in the second round, which would be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, Ash, thanks for hopping on here, wearing that Giants blue the day after the first round, and they add a defensive back, which they certainly needed. Thanks for watching, everybody. Again, a reminder, we are on live every Thursday morning at 10 o'clock on News Channel 13's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can catch us over the weekend on TV as well, 6 o'clock Saturday nights on My4, 6 o'clock Sunday mornings on News Channel 13. We will see you next